Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Welcome to At the Inn. What's going on? I am Matt. Welcome, Seb. How's it going, buddy?
Hello, friend. It is going well. We're in it today. I'm excited about this one tonight. Back to our Friday time slot. We're all
Yeah,
over the place these days,
yeah,
but that's
we are.
fine.
There's so much stuff going on. We have the
Summertime,
summer is in
man.
full swing. I work somewhere where we get really, really busy in the summer, so I end up doing a bunch of overtime, a lot, and it can be very
Yeah.
last minute. So yeah, it's just the way it bees that way sometimes.
Yeah.
Is
We have a lot of
the way it
staff
is.
that go away in the summer for obvious reasons, right? Because they want to
Mhm.
go on vacation and stuff. So, and we go light on the scheduling. So there's a lot of additional different shifts that most of us have to pick up just because we're
Mhm.
covering for other people that are away on vacation and stuff like that. So, yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's good.
Yeah, we
Um,
also have staff that go away on vacation, but it doesn't matter because we just end up doing extra work.
that makes sense.
But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. We are definitely an essential service in the summertime. So yeah, so we bounce around a little bit. Unfortunately, it's also left a little bit of a hole in the schedule. I've had to last minute cancel a couple of cheap seat bookings just because I'm not paid to do that, and I'm paid not great, but good enough to go, no, money's better.
Yeah,
Especially
that
given the
makes sense.
consequences for a lot of extra people if we don't get it done. So that's just the way it bees. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure it'll be
Um,
back up soon.
yeah,
Hopefully.
I do have a slew of people. I have a lot of stuff to discuss. We finally got our first Chris Jericho cruise talent announcement.
Ooh, that's
So that
exciting.
was that. Oh, brother. Let me tell you, it's a gooder too. Chris has really outdone himself this time. We got guest of honor Jerry the King Lawler, triple guest of honor. Scott Steiner is
Oh my
coming. Big
God.
Papa Pump, holler if you hear me. And the one that just sent chills down my mind. I got the goosebumps are going on right now just before I say his name. Absolute fucking legend from Japan, Jushin Thunder Liger is coming with us.
I have no
Um,
idea who that is.
Japanese legend, bruh.
I'll take your word
Um,
for it.
yes, just an amazing. Whenever he appeared, it was a hell of a match. He's one of those guys. You put him in the match, it's a good match. He can't have a bad match. I'm just absolutely
So like
amazed.
an AJ Styles, basically.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
he never gives you a bad match.
Never, ever international superstar.
Yeah,
You'd know him if you see him. Maybe later on I'll
probably.
call the thing up and show you. But and then on top of it all, I got to know with a bunch of other friends that we were connected through a band called We Are Wasted, and they're back on the cruise, and those are some good dudes. So we're
Nice.
super excited about that. We got the Nasty Boys coming. We got Coco Beware. Yeah, we got a gooder. I'm really
Nice.
excited what's going on with that. So
Good. That's I'm
that
happy
had
for you.
that had us all just bouncing and drooling, and text chains are flying, and personal messages are going back and forth, and group chats are blowing up, Facebook pages are blowing up. And yeah, that was our Tuesday, and we've just been giddy all week.
Good, good,
So,
good. That's
and
awesome.
then tomorrow I get to go and see old Ryan Reynolds' football team as Wrexham comes to town, and Wrexham, the old Whitecaps there, we're hoping.
Yeah,
We'll see
Ryan
how that
Reynolds is
goes.
in town. Apparently, Ryan Reynolds, this is what I've been told today. He owns a company that does like grass fields or something, and apparently they've rolled in a actual grass field for the game tomorrow on
Really?
top of the turf. Yeah, so you can let me know if that's accurate or not. I won't be able to watch the game. I have my soccer final at 4 o'clock, which is exactly the same time the
Mhm.
game is at, apparently. So I won't get to watch it. But yeah, so because when the World Cup comes to Vancouver in 2 years, they're not allowed to play on turf. So BC Place, which
Yes.
is hosting the World Cup, they have to do some grass fields for the month of the World Cup. So I'm wondering if this is like a tester to see if the grass will work in there the way they want it to work. So
I
it's
would
interesting.
I would guess
Yeah.
so. You may as well get it done now. Let's see here. We have some guests chiming in here. Sweet hat,
Sweet
sir.
hat.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate this. This is a souvenir from my last little trip down to Mexico there on
Dude,
the
I
old
should have brought
Jericho
that.
cruise.
I have a
But,
hat similar to that in my car. I should have brought it up.
you know what? This was just what was close. I didn't feel like going to find another one.
That's fine.
And it matches a jacket I have, and also kind of looks like Arthur's hat from Red Dead Redemption 2. So I was like, I yeah, I kind of talked myself into it, and I talked the guy down, which he probably still made way more money off of it than I want to believe. But
It's a
you
hell of
know,
a game. I haven't played it yet, though.
really,
There's too
I'm
many
on my
games to play.
yeah, you know what? That's true. I'm on my
So many
second
games.
playthrough, and I did the first playthrough as just whatever I needed to do and did my best. Second playthrough, very detailed. I don't get a lot of game time, as we've discussed before, but I'm at a point where I'm trying to get the because it's two different endings depending on how you've behaved throughout the game. I'm trying to get the good boy points this time.
Did you do a bad boy method the
Yeah,
first
but I
time?
wasn't really intending to. I was just sort of doing whatever I felt like. So I'm trying to get the good boy points on this one. And I'm at a point where there's one mission, and it's the dead last mission, and I'm almost there. And I have almost done all the little side quests I can do before you get to the epilogue. And yeah, so I'm having one of those moments. When was I playing
Nice.
last? I think last weekend I played a little bit, and I was like, oh man, I know I only got a couple of missions left that are going to pop up. I only have a few more things to hunt, a few more things to craft, a few more things to look, and I'm just running out of the whole thing, and I'm going to have to go through this emotional roller coaster of what happens when you get through that last mission with Arthur. It's
Yeah, I hear
I
it's a
highly
very
recommend
visually
it, but
stunning game. Like
it
some of
is.
the
It's
visuals in it are amazing. When you're sitting
yeah.
on
I
a mountain
mean,
and you see the sun setting and whatnot.
mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, you're overlooking, lakes and rivers. You get way up high. You just see the expanse of it. And then even at nighttime, if you just stare up at the sky, just the expanse of the Milky Way is fantastic. I can't recommend this game enough. It is probably my favorite game ever at this point. Um,
Nice. Yeah.
yeah,
I've heard good things about it.
I will tell you more good things about it. You got some stuff on your mind. You had some stuff
So
you didn't want to say anything in the pre-show. You wanted to because I've been
yes.
working all day and it's been a hell of a week. So hit me with whatever's up, buddy.
There's some good and some bad things, but today is a monumental day because today kicks off the Paris Olympics. So the opening ceremonies were on today, and they did something very unique. So, what do you feel like? What is a typical opening ceremonies to you?
This is a good question. We didn't hit on this last week. Obviously, it's the athletes parading through.
Sure. And so, where do
Um,
they usually parade?
well, usually I would. Don't they usually come in from outside the stadium and then go sort of
Yes.
around the stadium track and then sort of take up
So
their
there was no
position?
stadium involved today. So what they did
Oh,
is they were on barges down the river. I cannot remember for the life of me the major river in Paris where there's like a big river
okay.
there that goes right like by the Eiffel Tower, and each team had its
Is it
own boat.
the Seine?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, the
Okay.
sand. And they were introduced as the barge came by. So that does two things. Number one, it allows a hell of a lot more people to experience the opening ceremonies because they're just
Ah,
lined up on either side of the river the whole way down instead of fitting everyone into a stadium, right? So it was pretty cool that like every team had its own little boat. And the hilarious thing about it, it's like you have like the French boat, which has 600 people on it, the athletes, the United States boat, which has like 690 something, that's like a freaking barge, and then you have some countries that have like four athletes, and it's like a little dinghy going. It's like, why would they give them like a giant barge when there's only four athletes?
okay. So, quick question.
Yeah,
The swimmers and the rowing teams, were they
they're
just
they're not swimming. No, it's a good point though. Yeah,
it's a
they were
major
all in there.
river through a major city, so I would not
Yeah,
recommend swimming in it. I don't
yeah,
care how clean everybody is, but you
yeah.
don't do that with them. I wouldn't swim in the Fraser if you paid me nearby here. You could pay me a lot. I still ain't getting in.
So there was like, I'll give you the positives of the Olympics, and there's obviously some negatives that you know about that we'll talk about in a
Mhm.
second. But we'll start with the positives. So there's a ton of musical acts that performed at the opening ceremony. So Lady Gaga kicked it all off, singing in French. I had no idea that she spoke French, but apparently she does, which
Good for her.
makes sense if she's in the Joker movie, because I think that she sings French in that too, the new one or whatever. And then Celine
All right.
Dion closed the show off. However, there was a monumental thing that happened today for the first time in the history of the Olympics. A bona fide metal act played at the opening Olympics. Gojira, which is a French heavy metal band, they were
Yes.
there and they freaking kicked ass. And even the announcer was even like, "I'm completely enthralled by this." So they played some sort of song, which Sierra, I guess, which is
Mhm.
a song that was popular during the French Revolution, is what I'm reading here. But they
Mhm.
performed like a cover of it, and so they were. And you can just Google Gojira Olympics and you'll see it, like on YouTube and whatnot. But they were on top of this like big building, like on balconies, strapped in, and there was like flames going off and everything. It was, yeah. So it's a good step for metal, because metal over the last 20, 30 years has become more mainstream and more mainstream.
Yeah.
So, you know, good on the French Olympic Committee for inviting Gojira, which is a very popular French band, to perform at the Olympics. Because, even 10 years ago, you would never see a metal band play at the Olympics. They're too
No.
conservative for that, right? So yeah, that was very. When I heard about that the other day, I'm like, oh, I got to watch the opening ceremonies to see where they're at. So, yeah, that's super super exciting. If you're into metal, and the torch is unique too, because the torch. I don't know if you've seen it.
I saw Snoop Dogg running with it, and I went,
No, no, no.
"That makes
Yeah,
sense."
well, the torch, yeah, he was with it, but the actual like, torch that
The
they light,
cauldron?
the cauldron, it's
Cauldron?
it's
Okay.
in a floating balloon. And there's no fire. It's all
Oh.
like water and hydrogen, and like I don't know how they did it, but it's like like it's yeah, it's amazing. I'll see if I can find a picture of it so you can screen share it here. But
Right.
yeah, so that was pretty interesting, watching the opening ceremonies. To be fair, it was very long. It was
Okay.
4 hours long. Uh,
Well,
I was
yeah.
working at the time, so it was kind of,
Okay, so you had the yeah, I was just thinking, I should go back and watch some of that, but, I mean, maybe just fast forward a bit because you
yeah.
have the benefit, as we've discussed many times before, you have the benefit when you're at work, you can have the TVs on. So, I mean, while you are still working, and I'm sure it's not like you can, grab a seat and watch, obviously, but you do have that benefit of, "Oh, that's cool," as
Yeah.
stuff's going on, right?
Yeah, so that's why I enjoyed it, just because you don't have to sit down for the whole 4 hours and watch it. So,
Right.
if you want to, what the heck is going on here?
I don't know, I can't see your screen, but,
Okay,
there we go. Okay, so let's add that,
oops.
and it also like, whoo. Well, hopefully, I'm glad that was safe for work. That's cool, man.
Yeah, so it just floats above that little circular thing. It's attached to the cable, obviously, but yeah, that's
Yeah,
the Olympic cauldron. So it's pretty neat, man. So
that's cool.
yeah,
That
um,
is wonderful. Um, now,
and
speaking
if
of the opening ceremonies and the Olympics, did you see that the next Winter Olympics was
no,
um,
where is it being hosted?
announced? Um, hold on one second. I pressed the wrong button there. I almost
That a
threw
boy?
you out of the almost threw you out of the show here. There we go. Now we're back. Right buttons are good. I am Groot. No, it's Salt Lake City has got it again.
Oh, nice. They hosted it before. I'm
They
pretty
have
sure.
hosted it before, but here's the thing that I read that I haven't gone back and really dug into it before. There wasn't a whole lot of contenders this year. I think it was basically a one horse race. From one of the articles I was reading on it, because global warming is really screwing this up for everybody. Um,
Yeah.
so I mean that I found that interesting. And then Salt Lake City, they built all that stuff. I think they were 2002. I think is the date I read when they were there last. So, you know, um, the structures are not that old, but I think they have the 2034 games. So
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, because I believe it's Italy next for the winter, and then
that sounds right to me.
yeah, and then it's the States after that for the next summer ones in 2028.
Oh,
So
where are they
that
in the what are they doing?
Los Angeles.
LA.
Yeah.
I mean, that's cool. There's Miami's nice. Just saying, throwing that out there. Like,
Yeah, Miami's like
but
the
I mean,
hotbed
LA
right now
does
for
have
sports.
LA has a lot more it has a lot more
Hotels.
amenities to it and hotel. Well, no,
Yeah.
don't. Hey, Miami's got a lot of hotels. That entire economy is based on tourism, bro.
Yeah.
It's it's one of my favorite cities to visit every year. So we got some controversies too.
Yeah, it doesn't look good
Our
for
beloved Canadian soccer team that we just
yeah.
spent 2 shows hyping up was fresh out the gate with a controversy. The women's team, or not, obviously not really the players involved in this. It seems more of a coaching staff issue. Was
I
caught
hope the
using
players are unaware of this because,
oh yeah.
yeah.
I mean, we gotta assume that the coaching staff is doing things, and some of the coaching staff might be a little in the dark on it. Caught using a drone to spy on another team's practice,
Which is illegal.
which is very
It's
illegal.
very illegal.
Which is, it's right up there with stealing signs in baseball, deflating deflating footballs, using your hockey stick as a baseball bat in the middle of the ice. It's up there. That's a big black mark for our program, wouldn't you
Yeah.
say?
Yeah, the women's coach Bev Priestman was expelled from the Olympics and left the Olympic team. So I guess their assistant coach is coaching them. Here's the thing that is just flabbergasted me. So the Canadian women's team is the defending champions in the Olympics. They won gold at the Olympics 4 years ago. They're playing a 20th ranked team in their first match. I'm not saying New Zealand can't beat Canada, but they're should outclass them in a major way, right? So it's like why are you even bothering with a drone trying to spy on like it
On
it
New
looks
Zealand
so
of all,
bad, and I'm so embarrassed to be a Canadian fan right now. I mean, I'm sure I don't want to say this to deflate the situation, because I'm sure a lot of nations and coaching staff kind of push the envelope into what they can get away with to get an advantage for their team. They're probably not the only team that has tried something like that. But when you, as a Canadian Olympic Committee, are pushing this narrative of being a virtuous athlete, which is all in their directive, and then something like this comes out, it's like the complete opposite of that. Right? Because an honorable, virtuous athlete doesn't go to these levels of flying drones over other team to spy on them and to try to like map out their practices so that they know how they move and how they, shoot and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's and there's more to it though. I don't know if you heard the rest of it, because apparently the Canadian men's team is now being investigated, saying that they were doing the same thing in the Copa America in relation to the semifinal. So that's like, it goes even further back, and they're saying they've been using drones since 2001 to try to get an edge. So it's a big
Well, I mean,
conspiracy.
video resolution wasn't that great back in 2001, but
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
only
we're getting, and we've been discussing this for a few shows now. Like the program is on track. We're starting to get some respect in this field, and
boom,
big old Cleveland steamer right on top of that one. That was.
It's like I don't even have anything to say to try to defend it, because it's just wrong in every regard, right? You're cheating,
Yeah, it's.
Granted, I do like the Patriots as my football team, and we know their track record, so we'll just leave that at that.
Well, it's Brady's getting old. Sometimes the balls just aren't as firm as they used to be. You know what I mean?
You know what they say: if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying hard enough. No, just kidding. I'm totally kidding. I don't advocate cheating at all.
I have that T-shirt. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Rest in peace, Eddie Guerrero, the greatest of all time. Flair can fuck off.
So
That's going to get me an email from Tony. So
so
sorry, buddy, but I'm right.
the CEO is pledging with the or pleading with the
Hmm.
Olympic Committee not to dock any points because Canada ended up winning their first match. Which I mean, a lot of the group games like soccer, both men's and women's have to start before the opening ceremony because they can't get all their games in 2 weeks, so they have to start beforehand. So they played their
Hmm.
first match actually yesterday. Maybe it was even Wednesday. I can't remember, but they beat New Zealand 2-1. So they may actually get their points docked for that game, which is huge,
Yeah.
right? Because you only play 3 games to qualify out of your
I
group
mean,
to
it
go to the next round.
honestly, that's probably getting off light.
Yeah, but
I mean, that's,
so
I mean, it's a fine line though of punishing the team as a whole when these ladies have worked their ass off as athletes to get there, then all of a sudden something they didn't know about
I
and
know
had
it
no
sucks to be the
control over it.
player
Yeah,
because
but
I
at the
guarantee
same
you most of the
time,
players have no idea this is going on, right?
yeah.
The coach certainly did because she was expelled off the team, so there's no like she it was her staff underneath her that did it,
Mhm.
right? So yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's all there is to it really is it's the balance of punishing the guilty parties or punishing the whole program, and that would really suck for those athletes. I'm hoping that these athletes are just as upset with this coach. I guess obviously it's going to come out. It probably won't come out just because we're Canadian. We just generally don't air the dirty laundry like that.
that's true.
Um, but somebody will write a book someday and it'll be in there. It's like, yeah, that cunt. So yeah, not the
Yeah.
only controversy I have seen. Um, I have seen controversies about the Chinese team in the water polo that likes to kick and scratch and just play a dirty game. I saw a
What
controversy
happens
about
underneath the water?
right. Um, I've seen I think the one that really raised an eyebrow for me is an Australian swim coach was not only is he sort of helped, I believe the Korean team. So he did a little coaching with the Korean team, and I'm sure there was nothing offside on that. But publicly praised them and is going to be facing some sort of discipline when he gets back home to Australia for doing that, for being
Oh
un-Australian.
boy.
Um, the only reason he's still at the games is they have a large team and a small coaching staff. So to pull him from the games for doing this, Team Australia would have a lopsided workload for the rest of the coaches. So um, that came in pretty heavy. It's
I guess
I
it
don't know.
did.
The guy's doing what he loves. The guy's doing what he's good at, and he didn't lie about anything. He's like, no, this, and I can't remember the swimmer's name. He's like, this swimmer is good. I hope he does really well. I hope he wins. We need him to win. And it's like, and then the Australian um, hierarchy is what I will use here, whether it's Olympic Committee or whatever it is. It's like that's un-Australian. We have an issue with this. But
Yeah, I wonder what he
it's like one of
said
those
though.
things. Like, do you fire the only cook you have on a busy Saturday night, or is like it's that old? We're
Yeah.
children in the '80s. What was the scariest thing your mother used to say to you back in the '80s? Wait till I get you home. And that's exactly what this is.
Yeah, I just wonder what he exactly said, right? I mean, if you just praise somebody, I'm like, I
Yeah.
can't imagine anyone really
Yeah, but he was also sort
taking
of
concern
working
with
with the
that.
team as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was something I read the other
They
day.
probably felt
Um,
that he should be working with the Australians,
well, yeah, and focusing
not
his
the other
the
teams.
Australian team. I mean, and
Yeah.
yeah, if you're under his watch, that does look a little dodgy. But a lot of coaches are like, yeah, no, I'm going to be honest with you about this, that, and the other thing. A good coach will do that. It's like, look, here's how you do this, but this guy over here is one to watch. He's a bad stick of wood, and he will. If you give him an inch, he's going to take a mile. Um,
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean, it is what it is. It's honesty, and a lot of the time, honesty in athletic sound bites does not go over very well. You're expected to be a sportsman, and we've all heard these things like, you got to give 110%, and we're just going to do our best. And they're a great team, and they're going to come out there, and we're going to try to score more goals. But they're a good team at not scoring more goals than us, and it's just absolute horseshit. And sometimes you just want somebody to go, yeah, fuck that guy over there. I'm gonna go out there, and I'm gonna do this. I mean, they got a trash power play. I mean, this guy can't doggy paddle to save his life. I don't know why he's in the Olympics. It just
See,
and
that's why
that
I love
happens
Jeremy Roenick, because every time you see him
exactly.
in an interview, he gave you the real interview about like, we sucked, we were terrible today. He didn't give you recycled answers like you're trained to do. He gave it to you real.
Yeah,
That's
I
why I
mean, and
love
I
him.
know you haven't seen Ted Lasso yet, but it's a Roy Kent
Yeah.
fucking soundbite. It's
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
say we were shit. We were shit.
We were
We were
shit.
shit. They're shit. My foot shit. I can't run. This guy's an idiot. This guy's over here. And Brett Hall was also really good at that. It does
Yeah.
sort of lean into that pro wrestling mentality of, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to cut my promo, and I'm going to do that. And you don't want them to make shit up, but just go ahead and
Yeah.
give me
Shite.
something real. I don't care if you're going to go out there and try hard for 60 minutes. Sarah's right. It's shite. Thank you, Sarah, for
Yeah.
joining us.
I mean, you don't want to throw your players under the bus, so to speak, but people love candor and honesty in interviews.
Yeah.
The public
But
does, anyways.
and we don't
They
get
know
that a
you're
lot in
lying when you
athletics.
say, "Oh, well, we just got to play harder." We go out there and give 110%. I'm like, you guys suck. I just say
Yeah.
it. Just
Yeah.
freaking
I
say
mean,
it.
if you've ever, I think my favorite spoof of that is, if you've ever seen the movie Bedazzled with
Oh
Brendan
God,
Fraser and Elizabeth Hurley. He gets a bunch of
I
wishes. He wishes
have, but
he
man, that
wishes
was a
to
long
be
time
like
ago.
this professional athlete, and it's always that twist on the wish somewhere. It's like, I'm going to give you this, but sure, I'll
It's
give you the
not
world's
quite
biggest
gonna be the way
sandwich,
you
but it's
want it to
the
be.
actual sand, or something like that. It's not quite.
Yeah,
And so at one point, he is a big basketball player, and it is one of those interviews he's just going on about, and he is big and athletic and just dumb as shit. And then he also happens to discover he has a micropene. So that whole sequence is fucking amazing.
yeah,
Cannot recommend Bedazzled enough. If you want to
it's a
see
good movie.
exactly how good of an actor Brendan Fraser is, watch that. Plus Liz Hurley in her prime. Come on.
Been some time since I've seen it, but yeah, it's a good
Yeah,
movie. I agree.
it is a favorite of mine. I haven't seen it in a while, but I've watched it dozens of times. All right, we're
Yeah,
about halfway through the show,
let's
dude.
get it going,
Let's
bud.
get to it. So we came up with the top 5 concept. And I think we did this like really, really early when we still had Mike. So we're going back almost 2 years.
Did we?
Almost 2 years
I
we've been
don't know
doing
if
this,
we
buddy.
did. Did we?
I think
Maybe we
I
did.
think we'll cover this, but it was a little convoluted. We were still finding our feet.
Yeah.
So we decided we are going to hit this one off again. Our top 5 favorite trilogies. And here's something I had an issue with, finding something that's still just a trilogy.
Well, okay. So,
Because
I have
John
one
Wick,
that's
no
not a
longer a
trilogy.
trilogy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you can consider it a trilogy, I think.
I don't know. I
I
mean,
have one
Beverly
that's
Hills
definitely
Cop.
not a trilogy, but most people consider it a trilogy.
I would bet you we have the exact same one in there,
Probably.
because it's
Yeah.
part. If I'm correct, it's a trilogy that's part of a trilogy of trilogies.
Well, okay, we have a couple probably that are the same.
Okay,
Just
so
I'm
we're on the
I'm
same
more
list.
curious to see what your order is, because I tossed and turned this a lot, basically, but this is, I think, what I'm gonna stick with.
Yeah, I mean, I got one that I don't know if I can actually put on there yet, because I've only seen 2 of them,
Interesting.
because the third one came out today.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, dude, it's gonna be good. We might as
You know
well
what?
just.
I have all the faith in the world. So,
So that's your
just
number
based on the
5.
fact just based on the fact that I have not actually seen it yet, but I'm really looking forward to seeing if there is any shenanigans with old Ryan Reynolds downtown tomorrow.
That can be your
Uh,
honorable mention.
yeah, I'm going to honorable mention Deadpool on this one. I think the first one nobody didn't like. The second one, I really enjoyed
Arg-
they saved the character of the Juggernaut in that one, which was
Arguably, the
fantastic.
second one's even better than the first one. To be honest with you,
Um,
I laughed way harder in the second one than I did in the first one.
yeah, I mean,
So it's more comedic, but yeah,
I my problem with the second one is that when we get into time travel movies, it just gets to lazy writing because it's like, okay, it's a time travel movie. This really important character died at the beginning. Well, fuck, that's gonna
we can
get
fix
corrected
that.
by the end of it. Um,
Yeah,
However, with the way they did it at the end with the post-credit scenes of Deadpool just going out and fixing a few other things that were huge problems, but they also fixed the Juggernaut, which
yeah.
a favorite character of mine. He is more on the side of angels if you read the comic books now than anything else. But he was just ruined, bastardized, sodomized, and ruined in the X-Men films.
He's a
Um,
force to be reckoned with, man.
he is a force. He is unstoppable, and he's not a mutant. Not a lot of people know that. As for an X-Men villain, not a mutant. It's a mystical thing with him. He's also Professor Xavier's half brother.
Oh, that's interesting.
So, and that's why he has a beef with the X-Men. What happened was the Juggernaut. They were in the Korean War because I mean we're writing this comic book originally back in '63 when they first appeared, and uh, Kane Marco saves Xavier's life, ends up trapped in a cave, and finds this mystical gem, gives him the powers, and he's the Juggernaut. So using CGI and making him as big as a literal friggin' house,
Yeah.
and not a lot of people know this, but that was Ryan Reynolds doing the voice.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So honorable mention, giving it to Deadpool. Sarah's
Nerd
calling me a
alert.
nerd. I am not a nerd. I am not
Nerd
smart enough
alert.
to be a nerd. I am a geek.
Okay, that's
Nerds can
fair.
do
That's
better
fair.
math than I can do, and yeah,
Yeah.
that's all there is to it. Okay, so you got any honorable mentions for us, buddy?
So yes, this one may be on a lot of people's top 5 lists, but
Mhm.
the reason it's an honorable mention is because the third one is so bad. But I went with The Godfather.
Okay.
So the first two are like Godfather is one of the greatest gang movies ever, and the second one might be one of the greatest sequels of any movie ever made. The third one is just terrible. So, um, so I have that as
I'm
an honor.
definitely having flashbacks from that original time we went through this because I'm gonna say it again, except it's
Oh boy,
not gonna cause Mike to have to use the bucket by the chair. I haven't seen it.
any of them?
I've seen chunks of 1 and 2. I have not seen any of them end to end in sequence.
Oh, there's so many iconic moments from The Godfather. So, but yeah, that would be an honorable mention. That's something that I thought about putting on, but I have 5 others that I just like way better. So, and for me, it's like when I look at every movie, and this might get some people mad that are real Godfather fans. When I look at
Mhm.
all of the movies in all 3 movies in each trilogy in my top 5, I can like watch them from beginning to end. I
Mhm.
don't feel that way with The Godfather because it's long. It's,
Oh yeah.
it's
I
super
mean,
long, and so I phase out in parts. I understand
yeah.
that it's a phenomenal movie, but it's not like I can just pop it in and watch it one sitting. Like I'll watch it and then go back to it, a day later and
Yeah,
whatnot. But
they're
yeah,
over 3 hours. I mean,
yeah,
that was the rare double video cassette release. I mean, they tried to, as we've discussed before, a lot of feature film lengths were based on what they could get
runtime of a cassette.
runtime of the cassette and then the runtime of theatrical releases, and that's not a thing anymore because everything's digital.
Yeah.
But Godfather, Scarface, Deer Hunter, these are the ones that you went to the video store and it was 2 tapes. I mean, Titanic was one of the last ones to pull that off before we went to DVD.
Yeah.
So it's brutal.
The two tape
But
syndrome.
at the same time, you know what? I'm going to put a pin in this because I know it's going to
Okay.
lead into something else on your top list.
Of course it is.
Yeah, I know I know exactly what I'm pretty sure I know what your number 1 is, and it's going to lead into that. So we'll just
Yeah.
let that slide.
Okay.
Um,
Do you want
yeah.
me to
So
go
I
first, considering
yeah,
that you've
go.
already talked about time travel?
Yes.
So I have 4 and 5 for me kind of flip back and forth, but I put them in this order, I guess. So number 5 for me is the Back to the Future trilogy.
That's my number 4. So let's get into it.
Okay, so yeah, so I don't know, man. It's such an endearing movie to me, and it's one of those movies that you know when it's on, I'll just like, oh, it's Back to the Future. I'll watch it. And just so many good moments. And I'm in the school where I really like the second one. A lot of people didn't like the second one, thought it was the weakest one, but I actually kind of enjoyed it. And, you know, arguably the third one is the best one of the three of them too, where he goes to the back to the Western times.
Back
So
in the Old West. And,
yeah.
you know, it's not why I wore the hat. But looking at the list,
Yeah.
there's actually, it's a good, I got something on my list that goes well into the hat as well.
Yeah.
I would,
Michael J.
I
Fox,
was leaning
amazing.
towards 3 being the weaker of those, but
Dude, I like 3 the best out of all 3 of them.
I saw 3 in the theaters.
Yeah.
I remember my parents taking us to that. I saw the first 2 on VHS. Yeah, it was amazing. And then years later, when we discovered the real behind the scenes thing, where they basically, somewhere out there is a cut of this movie with Eric Stoltz in the lead role.
Yeah, there's slides of him. Like there's stuff you can find of him. I think he was replaced a few weeks into shooting. I'm not sure if they shot most of the movie. They didn't, but
They shot
knew.
a bunch.
Yeah.
So, and then, but I don't know if this would have been as successful with Eric, because I mean he got pulled for, and nothing against Eric Stoltz. I mean he was peak of his game back then.
Yeah, but there was something that was Robert Zemeckis, I think, right? That
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, not just a cut. They didn't do a cut, but they were almost done, and they couldn't. There was something about Eric that wasn't working, so you know
he wasn't endearing enough to that character. I think and that was the problem. There's nothing wrong against Eric Stoltz as an actor. He just didn't fit with the image that they wanted for Marty McFly, right? So, you know,
and it worked out. I mean, I don't know if they had released it with Eric Stoltz, would we have had all 3?
No. Well, I don't know, because they were made as a trilogy, though. I don't know if a trilogy, but they were definitely made as a part 1 and part 2, because at the end, like it's rare that you film a movie with an intended second one immediately in the script, right?
Especially, well, back then,
yeah, because as soon as the first one ends, it goes to be continued, right? Because they go back, and then he's like, Marty, we gotta go back. That's my Doc Brown impersonation.
Kids, Marty.
It's your kids. Something's gotta be done about your kids. So yeah.
Okay, so here's a couple of things here from our audience. Sarah's coming in. Michael J. Fox was filming Teen Wolf, The Family Ties, and Back to the Future all at once. What a beast! I mean, absolutely.
So he wasn't allowed to. So when he went to film the first Back to the Future, he was definitely doing Family Ties, but he wasn't allowed to leave to film Back to the Future. That was mostly night shoots. So there's stories of him literally sleeping for an hour in the drive in a car from Family Ties to the Back to the Future set. Like literally just sleeping in the car for an hour. And then he would do that 5 days a week and then just crash on Saturday and Sunday and sleep all weekend. Yeah. But I mean, that, like you said, what a beast. That's somebody that's determined to do this role. So yeah.
And then we got Tony. Thank you for joining us. And it says, if it gets released with Stoltz, it doesn't get past the first one. I think we all agree on that.
I think so too.
Big congratulations to my buddy Tony here, also known as Cruise Flair. He just got a co-hosting gig, co-hosting Sabu Talks with former ECW icon Sabu over on Twitch. So check that out. Check out Tony. Thanks for joining us, buddy. And again, congratulations. That's huge for you, buddy. So happy for you.
Really happy for you.
All right. So yeah, I mean, Back to the Future. And Nope, wrong one. That's the one I want. Plus, the makeup department nailed old Biff. I mean, that sounds like something you find on one of them short documentary websites that we're not allowed to watch at work.
Yep.
But yeah, no, let's be honest, the makeup department in Back to the Future, when they were aging up and aging down characters, I mean, I guess not aging down per se, because everybody was sort of young. But yeah, when they're aging up everybody, and when they had to replace oh God, I had his name in my head when they had to replace the dad, um,
Uh,
because
oh boy,
yeah, right,
Crispin
right up,
Glover.
Crispin Glover, that's
Yeah,
right. So there was some difficulties with him.
I
Um,
hear he's a very odd individual.
I have
Like
heard a couple
personally,
of
like he's
long form interviews with him on podcasts, and I would agree with that. Don't
yeah.
know him. Yeah,
So
crazy Crispin, but so
you do your
he
own
was brought
research,
back for the
guys.
first movie, but what they did is they hired somebody that kind of looked close enough to him, and then they make upped him all up, and they just did their best not to do close-ups and everything with him from then on out. So that's why Marty's dad is just really not seen too terribly much, or doesn't have a larger role as they do the next two movies. So
Yeah,
I mean, they really dodged a couple of bullets with that. Crispin Glover for years had a fucking beef with that. I think there was a lawsuit involved and everything. So that was your number 5 and my number
yes.
4. So
What is your number 5? I'm
my
curious.
number 5, it fits with the hat. I'm going the Man with No Name trilogy.
Nice.
For a fistful of dollars, for a few dollars more, and again another one of them VHS cassettes, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. This is Clint Eastwood at his prime. The spaghetti westerns are going
Yeah.
on. The Italian shot, Italian made, and then English dubbed. And there are a few points where you can tell it's English dubbed because it looked very much like a Godzilla movie. But I absolutely loved these. I got hardcore into the Clint Eastwood westerns for a while, and no, Tony, I am not going Brokeback Mountain. Stop buying me drinks. It's not going to happen. I'm kidding. Keep buying me drinks. It might
Just
happen.
keep it might. Yeah.
I will see you on the cruise, buddy. But Eastwood in his prime. He used, and Sergio Leone in his prime. It's just absolutely breathtaking storytelling, especially with Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah, it might be
So
one of the greatest westerns ever made is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. It's such
absolutely,
an iconic movie.
and that's saying something because Clint has a
Yeah.
lot of really good westerns going on under his belt too, like Unforgiven, to say the least. I mean, it's a little older or a little newer. He was a little older when he was doing it, but Outlaw Josie Wales,
Yeah.
you know, Clint knew what he was doing, and it was one of my. I can't get enough of this movie. If it's on, it's one of those ones that I'm going to sit and watch. You don't often see it because of the longer run times.
Yeah,
I use this
it
as a
clocks in at
reference.
4 hours, I think, doesn't it? The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah, it's like 3 and a
It's about
half.
then. Yeah.
There is a scene, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and I can work in a very dusty environment. Sometimes it's dust, sometimes it's other things that either come over our fence from the plant next door, or it's something that we're working with and we get a little filthy. We wear blue coveralls, and so if it's been a completely filthy day, I will take my gloves and I will beat the dust off of me. That sounded weird.
Okay.
And I use the references like, dude, that was disgusting. I'm filthy. It was like a scene out of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And a lot of people are looking at me like, what? There's the scene. They're in the desert. They are dehydrated. They're on death's door, and the the Confederate army is coming upon them. And so they start singing Dixie, trying to suck up, because this film does take place in the Civil War era.
Yeah.
And the general, the colonel, is just looking down at him from his horse, all in his grays, and they go through their whole song and dance like, please help us, and he takes his gloves off and he starts beating the dust off of himself, and it's the Union Army, and it's the blues underneath.
That's a
And
great scene.
it was one of those scenes where it's just like, oh fuck. And they end up in jail. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going tip of the old hat to Mr. Eastwood for that. Man with No Name trilogy. If you haven't seen it, watch it.
So good. Yeah.
Both my wife and Sarah have not seen it, so ladies, I'm gonna get
I
to
mean,
watch the movies.
it's a long endeavor, but it's worth it.
It is.
So.
I mean, the first two are about 90 minutes. But the good, the bad, and the ugly, Angel Eyes, and everything is just, and it's fantastic. Even
we never
even
do
when
find
they
out
get,
his name, though, do you? Clint Eastwood's character, like
you never do.
Yeah.
And you know, I know you have a special attachment to the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes, I do.
This is where the Ecstasy of Gold came from.
Yep, that's Metallica's
And
entrance song from every concert that they've ever done.
that's right. And
well, they started using it.
Mid
They
90s,
didn't.
wasn't it?
Yeah, I definitely for the Black Album tour. They might
Yeah.
have used it for the Justice tour as well,
Yeah.
but I don't know specifically.
I didn't see them till the tour they did for Load.
Yeah.
And so I've never seen them not do it. But I definitely remember when that music hit, and I'm like, "Whoa, good, the bad,
Yeah,
and the ugly, killer."
I think it's one of James's favorite movies, if not his favorite
Yeah.
movie, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. So,
And
actually,
I
speaking of
didn't know what was
westerns,
going on.
did you know that
when-
James Hetfield is in a movie as a sheriff?
No.
There's a movie coming out with James Hetfield in it as the sheriff in the movie. It's his acting debut.
Interesting. What's the name of this? You're
I'm
looking
it
I
up
can
right
tell.
now.
Yeah, I can tell.
It's the movie's called The Thicket.
Okay.
James Hetfield plays a sheriff in a new movie called The Thicket.
Okay.
So he's also in another movie. He's in he has a cameo appearance as a cop in what's the Zac Efron movie? Like, who does he play? Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile. That movie.
Okay.
Doesn't he play like Dahmer or somebody, or like a?
Yeah, it's just one of the big American serial
Yeah.
killers. I tend not to watch those ones. I just don't want to give those particular names the whole thing.
Yeah. So he's in a movie called The Thicket as a sheriff. So I don't know how much of the movie he's in there, but yeah, interesting. So
yeah, fantastic. All right, so let's hammer it on here.
Okay.
You're number 4, which is probably my number 3.
Maybe. So I still consider this a trilogy because there was so much time between the third movie and the fourth movie and the fifth movie that I don't consider the 4 and 5 actually part of the trilogy. They're standalone movies, but I'm going to go with Indiana Jones. So it's kind of cheating, but it's not.
I consider it a trilogy because I'm actively repressing the fact that both of those things exist.
So it's like Indiana Jones 1, 2, and 3, and then there was like 4 and 5.
15 years?
Yeah, it's been some time. But
I remember being real excited about 4 and then being
real let down by 4.
Real upset. It came out a week after I had left my position at Cineplex. But a buddy of mine's like, no. You've done enough late night off the book screenings. Ooh, come on out to Richmond. So me and my other buddy went out to Richmond and we did the thing. We brought the donuts and the beer and then we sat through it. And then we're like, shit, we can't leave. Because that was the rule. If you show up, you can't leave till the movie's done because you're not leaving the host sitting there.
I mean, I didn't hate it as much as you guys did. I saw what they were going for. It was something. I think like the character of Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford, obviously a phenomenal actor. He plays such an iconic character that everyone on the planet knows who Indiana Jones is. You know, the archaeologist, the dangerous archaeologist that goes to the extremes. It's just such an iconic character, right? And they're such feel-good movies. You know, they're so good. They're very, very good. Although we do always refer to The Big Bang Theory when about Raiders of
Oh
the Lost
God, yeah.
Ark,
No, that when
where he
that
didn't
hit,
even need to be in the movie.
I had heard that before because I have the internet, and
Yeah,
when I first saw that episode, I was like, please don't, please don't. There's people that don't know about this. Please don't, and they did.
yeah,
Let's avoid talking about 4 and 5. Let's get into
yeah.
what we enjoyed. We're gonna take the Kevin Smith route here. I disqualified this just because it did become a franchise, but yeah, I mean, let's indie like Raiders of the Lost Ark. Um,
So good. Yeah,
just one of those perfect films, and it really set the tone because it was designed by Spielberg and Lucas to be a feature-length version of the kind of stuff they used to see when they went to the movies as a kid, where it was, 10 or 15-minute shorts,
yeah,
and you would have to go back and see the next bit of action down the line. And sometimes it was a festival, that sometimes it was, here's like a 15-minute 10-minute uh
yeah.
short in front, so you got the action and you
It's
got the
also
resolution, and then you
yeah,
got the next part. Very pulp magazine, which is the predecessor for comic books, very comic booky. It's like you have this one little unit, you got 10 minutes for this unit, you're going to go on a ride, there's going to be some action, there's going to be a resolution, and then your hero's now in a we're doing what now moment.
yeah. There's
I
so many
think it's brilliant.
iconic moments from all three of them. Like the boulder moment where he's getting
Mhm.
chased by the giant boulder. Everything
And
with the
that's still a thing at
snakes.
Universal Studios,
Yes, yeah.
right?
So, the second one arguably is a lot more terrifying than the other two because it deals with like
Very different tone.
very different tone. It's still great, but I'm happy that they didn't go to remake the first one. Like the second one is
Mhm.
substantially different, and it's incredible in its own little way too. The dynamic between Indiana Jones and Short Round and Willie,
Mhm.
like the three of them
Mhm.
together, is just a comedy of errors, basically the three of them, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
and then
falling out of the plane and using the life
yeah,
raft. I mean, that was brilliant. I mean, Short Round itself, and
you
let's
told
let's
me to
not
stand over
forget
there.
that
That's what I
we
did. I
didn't.
stood over there.
It took 40 years for that Short Round Harrison Ford
Oh,
dynamic
such a
to
good
come
moment.
full
Yeah.
circle. And
Yeah.
I'm tearing up thinking about it because for those that don't know, the I Mr. I'm lost his name. So, anyways, Harrison Ford standing outside at an award show. I don't remember which one it was, and I think it was the Golden Globes. And then the actor that played Short Round, I hadn't seen Harrison in years, and he's like wanted to talk to him, but Harrison has a reputation, so he's just standing there, and Harrison turns and he goes, "Are you Short Round?" And he goes, "It's me, Indy." And like I'm getting the goosebumps, and just well, because it was one of those things, and
Yeah.
that for his career to resurrect in time to have that moment, because Harrison's getting
That's
older.
such an
It
amazing moment.
so did it bother you that Short Round didn't make it into The Last Crusade?
No, not at all. I mean, mhm. Well,
It kind of
if you look at the three movies, they have
yep.
three, like they have Indiana Jones is pretty much the only staple character in all three
Mhm.
movies. There's almost an entirely different support cast that are connected to him very closely in the
Mhm.
first one, in the second one, and the third one. Like in the third
Well,
one, obviously it's his
you
dad,
get
right?
John Rhys Davies coming back
Sure.
for
Yeah.
1 and 3, and you have, and I can't remember the actor's name, but the museum director that's sort of his boss that,
Sure, and that's
sends
going to
him
be
off,
consistent, right? But
right?
he's in different areas of his life, right? And so instead of bringing Short Round back for the third one, they decided let's put his father in. Let's make
Mhm.
that a thing, and just the contrast of styles like the way they are, because they're substantially different. Sean Connery plays his dad, but he's so different than Harrison Ford or Indiana Jones, and their arguments through the whole of the last one is just, to me, it's so endearing and fun.
Yes, I
Um,
mean, it's, like when Sean Connery and they're in that chase of they've left the castle, and the car is like in a hole in the beach and they're being strafed, and he just runs at the ducks shaking his
So good.
umbrella, and it crashes the plane. Like, that was rad. The moment of realization where Elsa is maybe
Not on
not
the
at
good side.
space. It's like and
Yeah.
you realize that they both have had the same meal, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's just like, wait, what, Dad? What are you doing? It's like, what? I'm just, what? And it's like, oh.
Dude, the part where he's the tail gunner in the clock, and he's like 6 o'clock. He's like, I got 11, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, there's 6 o'clock. then he shoots the rudder and he's like, oh,
Oops.
son, we've been hit.
It was great. And
Oh my God,
and
it's so
Harrison
good.
Ford and Sean Connery had that
The chemistry
chemistry.
is so
It was
good.
off
Yeah.
the charts. And then young Indiana Jones, not the TV series,
Yep.
River Phoenix.
River
He did
Phoenix.
great. And what
Yeah.
I really liked about that is Harrison Ford has a scar.
Yeah.
It's a
That's a
real
nice
scar,
little Easter egg to throw in there.
right? It's a
Yeah.
real scar. It's something he did to himself, and it's right across his chin there, sort of right under the lower lip, just above the chin. And you see it in every movie because, I mean, it's just the way it
Yeah.
is. It's a scar. The fact that they did his first whip crack and opened him up in that exact spot
Yeah.
was brilliant.
Yeah. It's great.
Absolutely brilliant. Sarah has a point about the casting. If you can get Connery, you take Connery. Absolutely.
I agreed.
You do. I
Yeah.
mean, he's a lot tougher to get these days, but you absolutely do.
Well,
And a little
speaking
trivia
of,
as
he
well.
virtually quit acting. So he hasn't. Sean Connery is done.
He passed away, dude.
Well, did he?
Yeah.
When did he pass away? Oh my God.
A few years back. Yeah. He's
Well, yeah, you're
not a
probably
thing.
right. Yeah.
So the character was originally named Indiana Smith after an Alaskan Malamute called Indiana that Lucas owned in the 1970s, on which he based the Star Wars character Chewbacca. Spielberg disliked the name Smith, and Lucas casually suggested Jones as an alternative. However,
That's another Easter egg in the
speaking of
third
Easter
one.
eggs, would you like to say the line?
Go ahead. You do it.
We named the dog Indiana.
You were named after the dog?
You're named after the dog?
Yeah, it's like the last
Brilliant.
line you hear when they're sailing to the sunset, basically.
Yeah.
In the third one. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So we did your number 4. So
Yeah,
maybe give us your number 3 then, I
My
guess.
number 3. You know what? I was thinking of this. I'm going to swap my 2 and 3 here. Number 3, I'm going the Clerks trilogy.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, the first one shot in black and white. I have actually been to the actual Quickie Mart. So small, dude. It is about the size of the office I'm sitting in, and you've been in my office. It ain't big. However, it is filled with Kevin Smith adjacent stuff. And the video store in that complex is now the Smodcast Studios out in New Jersey. I would like to personally thank Mom and Jay again. I do this all the time for taking me to the Clerks store, the Quick Stop. Yeah, I mean, Kevin Smith, he put everything, he sold his comic collection, put everything he could, hired his friends, and
maxed out insane amounts of credit cards.
Yeah, maxed out went deep into debt, and the best he could afford was black and white film, which is why it's in black and white, even though it was shot in like 92, I believe. Kevin came out of the Vancouver Film School, said, fuck, let's do it. And he leveraged it, and it was a hit. The dynamic of all these people, and I guess it probably works because he did hire his friends to do this. So they were already friends to begin with in doing all this stuff. Some were better actors than others. Absolutely fantastic. Gets a little weird. We got Jay and Silent Bob Jay in particular is a little harder to take in this one. They sort of even that out a little bit. Number 2, years later, they're no longer at the Quick Stop. They are in the movies. They got a couple of bigger name actors in there. They have, rollover with guest stars like Jason Lee pops up, and they've got different stuff going on. It's where I take my favorite line about Lord of the Rings. It's like those movies are so boring. It was 7 hours of walking. And the entire rant on Tony would have no problem being number 38. I didn't think you would. Neither would
Yeah.
I. Let's be honest. Uh, one of the best jokes is, for those of you who haven't seen it, I'm going to spoil this. So Dante has found out that his girlfriend has not slept with very many men, but she has blown 37 dudes. And so he's like, my girlfriend sucked 37 dicks. And the follow-up line like 5 times is, in a row?
In a row.
Like a seal?
Yeah, Clerks.
Which,
That's a good poll actually. Clerks is good.
and and the movies gets when they're in the movies gets a little out there at times. I really enjoyed it. However, Clerks 3, it was the meta conclusion to this that I didn't know I needed. I thought I was just signing up to see the boys back in the quick stop, because at the end of 2, they go into business. Jay and Silent Bob, through their other inventions, are sitting on a bunch of money, and so they all go into business together. The boys, Randall and Dante, own the quick stop. I assure you, they're open, and so good. And it is the wrap up. I mean, they're in their late 40s, their 50s, and I was just expecting another sort of installment, and then we all get clicked forward, but it's not. It becomes the story of how, and I won't name names, but one of the boys passes away, and one of them starts to decide that he needs to do something with his life, and is going to make a movie. And it is the story of how Clerks was actually made from the perspective of one of the 2 guys, and the other one passes away
Wow.
during that. And then it's the whole aftermath of that, and a wonderfully poignant, because I mean, it goes from dick and fart jokes, and this is a theme for Kevin Smith movies pretty much across
He
the
does
board,
use a lot of
especially
those, that's for sure.
if you're talking the Jersey Askewniverse, so Dogma, Clerks, Jay and Silent Bob movies, Mallrats, that stuff. It's a lot of dick and fart jokes, but when they get deep, when they hit a subject, they hit it with so much heart and such poignant, intelligent dialogue to make their point. It really hits. And they do a scene with one of the guys looking back, and actually they do several with both of them, and it hits. It hits, like tears hits. It might be Kevin Smith's best film. And normally I would have said Chasing Amy, because Chasing Amy is
That's
phenomenal.
A good movie.
But
that's a good movie, yeah.
And that was, again, based on a lot of Kevin's life with Joy Lauren Adams, as a matter of fact. A lot of that movie was based on his relationship with Joy Lauren Adams. He just had Ben Affleck stand in as him for most of it.
Makes
but
sense.
yeah, I mean, Clerks, if you haven't seen Clerks 3,
yeah, there's a lesson to be learned about Clerks and about filmmaking in general, and I believe Kevin Smith was in the middle of attending the Vancouver Film School, and then he dropped out halfway through. He never finished the program and decided, you know what, I'm just gonna go make a movie. Right? There's a certain knowledge base that you need to have before you endeavor into like filming a movie or something like that. But the lesson here, I think, for people is that a lot of people, when they want to go do something, they're never prepared to do it, or don't feel that they're prepared. So they want to overstudy and they want to overlearn about things. So they prevent themselves from moving forward, whether it's writing a book, becoming a filmmaker, becoming an actor, whatever. Sometimes you just need to jump into the deep end and figure it out while you're there. Sometimes you're just never going to be ready, because if you're always waiting to be ready, guess what? You're never going to be ready. So sometimes you just, exactly. So
that's how
sometimes
this show started. It came like, let's do this. We're like, cool, we'll figure it out. And we just you're exactly
you just do
right.
it. You just have to do it, and then go, you know what? Let's just stumble through it, figure it out. We're not going to get it right the first time, but maybe we are. So
Ready, Aim, Fire is a great thing. but
Yeah.
fire, aim, ready
Sometimes
is a
is the right
great
way.
way to learn, and
Yeah.
it's the right way to go. Yeah, you have amazing points there, Seb, and
Yeah.
it's just and here's somebody that just go
Just
do the
go do the
thing.
thing. Yeah.
And Sarah is a living example of that. She was put into a situation, um, honestly, a couple of times in the last few years, and she had no choice but to figure it out. So and if you have an online business, I recommend looking up Data Zen Business Solutions and seeing if maybe they can give you a hand with anything there
Shameless plug.
in the room.
We'll
Oh
we'll
no,
take a check in the mail, Sarah.
I, I she was
Just
gonna
kidding.
bake me cookies last weekend, but
That
we were both
works.
very tired and didn't do nothing, so I just want
All right.
cookies. Um,
That's fine.
yeah, so that's
Okay.
Clerks. If you haven't seen Clerks 3, I highly recommend. It's a lot of in jokes, so watch 1, 2, and 3. It'll
Yeah, you
take you
must have to
less
watch.
times than
Yeah.
it will to watch The Godfather.
Yeah.
They're only 90 minutes apiece, so yeah. All right, what else
Oh,
you got for us, buddy?
okay. So my number 3 is we'll just spit these out quick because we're running out of time here. But the triple Nolan, Christopher Nolan Batman series.
That's my
Batman
number 2.
Begins. That's your
Perfect
number
timing.
2. Okay,
Perfect
so
timing.
Batman Begins, Dark Knight, and Dark Knight Rises.
Yes.
I think what makes this so great is that all of the villains in the movie were S tier, knocked it out of the park actors
Mhm.
that that nailed the roles. Liam Neeson, Heath Ledger, and Tom Hardy were
And
phenomenal.
largely unknown characters.
Well, except for the
Joker
Joker.
obviously is
Yeah.
known. Two-Face known, but Two-Face had a very small role. Ra's al Ghul, if you watch the Batman animated series, you had
Some
an
context
idea.
for it, but yeah.
Bane is a
Well, Bane was always a
relatively
side
recent
character, right? Like,
Bane. Well, no, Bane came in. Bane came in hot. Bane came in. There was a one little issue, sort of his origin story, and they just released that. So, okay, we're gonna put his origin story over here, and it's called The Vengeance of Bane. I wish I would have bought it because it's worth a lot of money now.
Well,
And then Bane is
I'm
the
just
one that,
saying I'm
yeah.
just saying that a lot of people that would go into seeing Bane were coming from the experience of the previous Batman,
Oh,
where he plays Poison Ivy's sidekick, which wasn't a good representation of Bane because they basically just
yeah.
made him out to be a zombie, right?
Rest in peace, Jeep Swenson, by the way. But yeah, no, that was horrible. Bane is a very intelligent, very,
Yes.
very intelligent villain. The way he originally killed the Batman or broke the bat is he decided that he was taking out Batman, and he had a good plan.
Yeah.
Him and his guys showed up in Gotham, and he's got the Venom thing going on, which takes him from a beefy dude to just like the Juggernaut in Deadpool 2. Um, and the way he went about it was Batman happened to be sick. He didn't know that at the time, but he had like the flu because he's out there, and he blew up Arkham and released everybody. So now
Yeah.
Batman has to go on this. I think it was 18 issues over the course of 3 or 4 Batman books and round all these guys up. And he's rounding up guys like Two-Face, and he's rounding up guys like Clayface, and he's rounding up, all the B, C, D list villains that he's got in his rogues gallery. And he's exhausted, and he stumbles back home, and he's just beat. And Alfred's not in the back cave, and he's does the thing where he sort of stumbles upstairs. He's got the robe over the suit. He hasn't taken it off yet. And there's
Yeah.
Bane, and Bane's just like, "Go time, bitch," and breaks Batman's back. And it was
Yeah.
a brilliant. It's called Nightfall. Brilliant, absolutely
Which
brilliant. One of the
they
best
loosely,
written.
no, I shouldn't say loosely, but they took that storylines kind
Yes.
of to make the trilogy. But I
It
think
was
the reason
known
it works,
very loosely. Yes.
yeah, I think the reason it works is because there's so much in-depth character work that Christopher Nolan
Mhm.
wrote out. It's not just a superhero action movie. It's like there's in-depth character dilemmic choices. Like,
Mhm.
do I do this or do I do that? If I keep going this way, I'm going to turn into a villain. And it's just,
Yeah.
I don't know.
The way that Dark Knight ends with
Yeah,
you either die the hero or live long enough to see
to be the
yourself be the
villain.
villain,
Yeah,
and that's the
great line, by the way.
amazing line.
Yeah,
The Batman Begins with something we haven't really seen before on film, is how he actually became the Batman, the trial and error, the fact
Yeah.
that, he didn't just like throw a hissy fit and decide he's going to beat up villains. He went and had to go and
He
train. Batman
he
is
also
an
went soul
actual
searching
ninja.
too. He also went soul
Yes.
searching for quite some time. He went to live in a jail cell, for example, at the beginning of Batman Begins, I mean.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like it's such a good character origin story. Also, I mean, what do we say about Heath Ledger's performance in as the Joker?
Oh, he
Probably one of the
deserves.
greatest performance
I mean,
ever.
there
Yeah,
is a sect of people that are like, well, he probably wouldn't have won if he was alive. And you know what? We'll never know. But he deserved best Joker they've done.
I
Um,
agree.
I I loved Nicholson's version. I do not like the new Joker movie, and I have no intention of seeing the other one, or at least
The
paying for it.
Joaquin Phoenix one?
Yeah, the Joaquin, I don't like it. I think the Joker needs to have a more mysterious backstory. The Oscar was well deserved, absolutely was.
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue that. Um, but the starting with Ra's al Ghul and the fact that, hey guys, he's Batman is not just out there, being a detective that can get into a street fight. Batman's a ninja.
Yeah. Like a super
Batman is an
ninja.
actual trained ninja.
Yeah.
And that, I think a lot of the superhero movies lose that as, well, these guys are just either a badass fighter. Would they ever learn? Like, no, he's a ninja. He's a
But
ninja.
there's the character development for him to force that narrative out, right? Because
Mhm.
he saw his parents murdered in front of his eyes,
Yes.
as a kid, and he there's part of that will always eat away at the
Yes.
at Bruce Wayne, right? So,
Well, it's given him especially if you read the books, it's given him a complex. It
yeah,
always comes back to my parents. You saw it in the Batman versus Superman movie. It's like the second they they mention Martha, both their moms happen to be named Martha, and it's like Batman's parental issues come back again, right? And that's part of it. It's you
and
can't take that piece of the character away. It is too crucial.
And I think what Christopher Nolan did is because prior to that, Batman was Batman, right? Like you go through the whole Batman era of like the 80s and 90s, and
Mhm.
it's very comic booky, I guess is the best way of putting it, right?
Very.
And he made the character of Bruce Wayne like a human, basically. He with real
Mhm.
human problems, dilemmic choices. Like, I am doing this by choice, but it has repercussions. I'm never gonna find
Mhm.
love. I'm never gonna, So there's a lot of things that are very humanistic about it. Yeah. So
They get into the fact that they have to explain the injuries,
yeah,
right? Those Batman movies are more realistic. They lean into the technicalities required to actually become who he is, kind of like The Boys.
yeah, it's
Sarah
very
has
well
a good
said.
point with that one. I mean, he needs support. So we really, for the first time in film, lean into a Lucius Fox and his role.
Oh,
Excellently
he's so
portrayed by
great too.
Morgan Freeman.
The
Wonder just and
subtext in
his
their conversations are so good too.
I mean, in Batman Begins, it's like I guess they're down in the R&D lab, and
Yeah.
like, what's that over there? And he's like, oh, Mr.
Oh,
Wayne, you wouldn't be interested in that. It's like the fucking no, it's a tank. It's
look
a
at that
tank.
thing. Yeah.
I loved it so much.
He's got one, folks. He's got one. That is a nice crotch shot. Anyways, there it is.
I have the tumbler. We're just gonna not
Some
risk
people
anything
like
falling
it,
out
and
on it.
some people really don't like it
I
because it's not a traditional Batmobile, right? But I love it.
It's
I
not.
think
It's
it's
a
great.
full-on tank.
I love
But
it,
I
man.
appreciated it. It worked for what it was. It kind of bummed me out that really it only had one movie for a highlight because you get into the Batcopter in the third one, and
Yeah.
it's more about the motorcycle version of it in the second one. But the Tumbler was rad because it's like,
Yeah.
nah, it's just gonna Kool-Aid man its way through the city, and
Oh
that's just
yeah.
right. Like
Yeah.
I'm just gonna drive across the roofs and I'm gonna bust through this wall and your life. You're coming with me.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it. But I mean, there better, cooler looking Batmobiles that's a a little more realistic? Absolutely. I mean, if we're
Well,
talking
none of them
favorite
are
Batmobiles,
realistic.
then
There's
I'm
a
going
freaking
green
rocket
one,
engine in it. So, like, how realistic is that? I
right?
don't think that's a sustainable thing. But
But
yeah,
you know that Keaton Batmobile was friggin' cool, and
yeah.
it was kind of based what they based the animated series one on. Yes, and they were selling Lego.
Well,
Bat,
there you go.
but you know what? They don't shy away from the fact that the Batmobile gets beat up, damaged, blown up, and destroyed, which is why
Well,
we have so many different versions.
he self destructs it in one of the movies. I can't remember which one it
Yes,
was,
second
but
one.
yeah, second one.
And
Yeah,
takes it's the second one, and that's where he gets the
the,
Transformer motorbike deal.
yeah, pops the
And
motorcycle pops out.
yeah, but I
Yeah,
don't mind, like, yeah,
no,
it's
it's
Batman, blow it up and let's get a different one. Like the patents in Batmobile I thought was cool because it's a basic starter kit,
I
right?
mean, he's got money, right? He's got an entire R&D
Yeah,
department that's sinking millions of dollars into it. So,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, so I can't agree with you
yeah.
more on the Dark Knight. The Batman Begins is consistently in my top 5 movies ever.
You can
I
put
just
all
love
three
it.
of those as you know. You can ask me any day of the week, and I'll like one of the three better than the others. But it
Mhm.
rotates. You know, it's just whatever I'm feeling. But they're all great. They're all
And then the twist they put on it in the finale of I'm I'm not Ra's al Ghul's son, and it's Talia
yeah.
all along, right? And it's just
Spoilers.
yeah. Well, I mean, at this
It's
point,
been several years if you haven't seen it by
we're going
now.
on 15
Yeah,
or 16 years since that came out, so I think we're okay.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's just excellent
So good.
writing, piecing it all together. I think the only negative in that entire trilogy was Joseph Gordon-Levitt. We are just left hanging because
Robin.
it's like, oh, why don't
Robin.
you go by your first name? It's like, I like it. It's like Robin. It's cute. It's like, oh, dude, come on. Like it was right there, and everybody had that sense of, oh, he's going to turn out to be Robin.
You,
But yeah, but it's in the post credit scene, really, and Nolan's
you
done.
know what's funny is that Nolan always leaves these teasers
Hmm.
in a lot of his movies. The other one I can think of is Inception, when the very end of the movie when the totem is spinning and you
Yes.
never see it fall, so you don't know if he's in the dream or not at the very last shot.
Yeah.
So, he always leaves these little things, right? So,
He does, and sometimes he overcomplicates it because I've seen Inception once, same as I've seen Tenet once, and I'm
oh
like,
God, don't even
I
get me
don't,
started about Tenet.
I need to go back with a notepad and figure both of these movies out. I will get
At
into
least
a
in
Christopher Nolan thing down the road, I'm
God.
sure, but
Yeah.
um, we're coming, we're going a little long, but we're going to keep rolling with this.
Okay.
So we've hit my honorable mention and my 5 to 2.
Do you want me
How
to
many
go
do
with
you
my
got left?
two?
I got
I
one. I
got
got my
I
top
got
one
two and
left.
one. I got
Okay,
two
so
and
give us
one.
your two.
Okay, so my number two is the original Star Wars.
That's my number one.
Okay, so my number one is going to be not even in your top five, which is fine.
No, it's
But
not.
you
I know
probably know
exactly
what
what
my
it
number
is.
one is. So yeah, so let's just talk about Star Wars, and then we'll do my top one real quick. But yeah, how do you go wrong with the original Star Wars, New Hope, Return,
You don't.
or Empire, Return of the Jedi? I mean, it's iconic. Like I remember watching them as a kid for the first time, and I remember consistently rewatching it and rewatching it and rewatching
Mhm.
it. It gave you the Jedi, the first, laser sword spaceman, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like it's just so many iconic moments, and the character work, the story work, like it was jaw dropping to say the
Yeah,
least
and
when you
the
first watched
coolest
it.
of the space cowboys. I mean, there was,
Yeah,
there was like Buck Rogers and a few others, basically space cowboys before that. But I mean, Han Solo, come on, let's go, buddy.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Like he was just cool. He they
It
like
might
it
be the
Razor
bit.
Ramon cool. Like he can't do any wrong. It's just you see him, it's like, oh, that guy's cool,
Yeah,
right? Like
Harrison Ford in both of our top fives as characters.
that's right. Making
So
making
pretty
appearances.
pretty damn good actor, if I do say so myself.
Well, I mean, he I know he wasn't the first choice for Indy. They were really looking at Tom Selleck, but I
They made
don't.
the right choice with him.
I think, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
not with
Tom
Tom
couldn't
Selleck,
get out
but
of his
with
Magnum PI deal, um, so I don't know if Tom could have made a franchise out of Indy like Harrison did. We'll never know, but yeah, like, and then you don't see a lot of him but for the very little screen time Vader actually gets,
Iconic.
he became an icon of
Yeah.
villainy real quick. We didn't even know that he was threatening his children at the time.
Yeah.
We just like that first opening of the door in the battle and the smoke and the blasters and what is this coming down the hallway?
Yeah.
Wow. And then that deep James Earl Jones voice with just a little bit of distortion.
Yeah.
Just like, and then it's just like, um,
Iconic voice,
basically he
Chins.
stood up in the company meeting and strangled a coworker that was talking shit.
And everyone's like, yeah,
It's like,
that's what happens.
why you open your mouth? Why
Yeah.
are you opening your mouth? Shut the fuck up.
Dude, no.
Yeah, right. It's just, you can almost hear everybody else rolling their eyes. It's like,
Yeah, it's I would say that Star Wars more than any other IP has generated the most number of other stuff outside of the
yes.
three movies in terms of like rides and other books and video games, board games, other movies, other TV series. I mean,
Oh,
Disney bought them
just
for
the
free.
original
Yeah.
marketing juggernaut too.
Yeah.
Like
George
Lucas,
knew what he was doing.
George, George had a good hunch, and it paid off when he's like, because he took was getting budgetary hits, and
Yeah.
I think he took a salary cut. Didn't get paid much for it, but one of the clauses like, yeah, okay, fine, but I want to keep the merchandising rights.
Oh, that's a smart
If
deal.
George hadn't kept the merchandising rights, do you know how bad the
That deal
next
would
40
yeah.
years of movies would have been?
Yeah.
Because those merchandising rights paid for ILM, Industrial Light and Magic,
Dude,
which
he's
did
got
the special effects for every big time movie that we love
and that was
ever.
born out of Star Wars.
Yeah, out of those
Yeah.
merchandising rights. So with without that little clause, because he needed to get this done, and he's cutting deals, and they had no intention of merchandising this. I mean, I got a Millennium Falcon and a Boba Fett head in Lego sitting right next to my tumbler on the shelf
Nice.
up here. I got Star Wars shirts. I have hundreds of Star Wars comic books. My parents invested thousands of dollars into Star Wars toys. They then threw out to everybody's regret when we realized how I mean, I beat them up too, right? Like they
Yeah.
weren't mint condition, but I mean,
They're still valuable though.
they still would have been deemed like that. I mean, I still got stuff from Star Wars that I would love to go out and pick up, like other Lego sets, t-shirts, Mandalorian stuff. And to your point, it spawned so much other stuff. It spawned a trilogy of trilogies, plus
Yep.
2 other movies, and
Plus countless TV
another movie
series
coming out, which is probably going to be another trilogy.
Yeah.
TV shows and let's not even Disney Plus. I'm talking like the Ewoks cartoon, the droids cartoon. You remember the Disney did on the Disney Sunday night movies? They did 2 or 3 Ewoks like made for TV movies. The Christmas special that we shall dare not utter its name.
That was something else, man.
Oh,
But
boy, howdy.
yeah, it's also so super fascinating to me how the Star Wars fans they're so devout in their canon that they critique every thing that they don't agree with. Like their fan base is very critical of Star Wars. Case in point, how Acolyte is just getting slayed over and complained over by the purists there. So
you're kind of caught in the middle.
Yeah.
We still do have the group chat with Mike, and
I
love you, buddy, if you're listening to this. But Mike and I have very different opinions on it.
You
I'm
guys
not
do,
saying
yeah.
it's the greatest show ever. I just don't have the hatred towards it or the disappointment. I don't have the disappointment towards a lot of things that have come out. Sure, some are better than others, but I'm just going to watch the story and wait, because without a few lows, if everything's a hit, everything's average. So without a few lows, without a few mids, we're not going to get our Mandalorian. We're not going to get our Empire. We're not going to get our whatever the next high point happens
Yeah,
to
not
be.
everything can be a home run.
And there's so much um there's so much fodder out there between the novelizations that were out for years between the end of uh, Return of the Jedi and I mean they're still going on today, but Phantom
Yeah.
Menace, we had novelizations, like the comic book stopped, but we had novelizations. And going back to the Clerks thing, if you watch Clerks, there's the argument in Clerks pops up of, yeah, but the rebels are terrorists, because like if you're a contractor working on the Death Star and you get blown up because you're building it, like that's political. And that whole thing
It's a
was just
fascinating point. Yeah.
right. It's like,
To be
you're just
fair,
a
the Death
plumber, you
Star's
don't
blowing up
care, you just
planets,
need to
though.
get
So,
paid. Right? You just
yeah.
want to get paid for installing the toilet. You happen to be
I'm
on
just
the
here
Death
to
Star
set the
when
AC up, man. I'm just here to fix the AC. I don't understand what all the hate is. But yeah,
yeah.
Star Wars.
Yeah, and so Sarah said the Ewoks cartoon
Dude,
was
I
the
watched
shit.
the shit out of
Tony,
that.
the Ewoks were my favorite. Yeah, the Ewoks were rad. I mean,
I
it
remember
was
watching it on Sundays, man. Sunday afternoons.
that's right. It was the Ewoks cartoon, and droids were a double shot
Yep.
for a couple of years on Saturday mornings. And it's the adventures of 3PO and R2 in before winding up on that freighter with Leia, which I mean clearly is no longer the thing because we have a whole other canon for that
Yep.
now, which yeah, I'm not going to get into that. I'm getting a little twitchy on that whole thing. So yeah,
Fair
I mean,
enough.
Star Wars is probably the trilogy that really made people realize that trilogies will work. And George had the story, but they took their time doing it. They
Well,
didn't bang it all out.
he had such an insane story that the narrative is that he had it divided into 9 parts, and
Mm-hmm.
then he took what he thought was the best section and just made the first
Correct.
movie, which was part 4. But I wonder how much of it changed throughout the years, because I have to assume that his first original concept for this space opera epic, before he even started filming A New Hope, it must have changed throughout the last 30, 40, 50
Mm-hmm.
years, right? Even so much after Return, when he went to film The Phantom Menace, I'm sure there's a lot of things that changed in
Yes.
his thought about how he would do the prequels before.
Well, I mean,
So
the original Jabba the Hutt was not a giant
yeah,
slug.
he was a
There's
human.
footage there of he was just a rotund gangster. Sarah's point,
He
Kevin
just
Smith it. He just did it. He went out
just
there,
did it.
he literally invented the special effects to do this with miniatures and
Yeah.
models, and then as he started getting the CGI thing under control, which was basically back then it was just doing it on the film itself. And let's not forget our spoofs. Pizza the Hut.
Big
I'm
rumor
curious
right
about-
now. Big rumor. Mel Gibson might be doing a Spaceballs too.
Mel Gibson is.
Or Mel Brooks.
Mel Brooks.
My bad.
Yeah, no, it's not a rumor. It's in production. That's a thing that's happening. Mel Brooks is 99 years old, and
God bless him.
So
Yeah.
it needs, I swear to God, if they do not properly title this The Search for More Money, as they mentioned in the original Spaceballs, we riot.
Yeah, because what's his name says that, isn't it? The oh God,
Yogurt.
Yeah, he says
Yogurt.
that in his merchandising start.
The Search for More Money. It's Spaceballs 2, The Passion of the Balls.
So that's a good one, actually. So yeah, that's in pre-production.
Thank you, Tony, for that. That was the mashup we didn't know we needed right there. Also, kind of taking some money out of the people over at Vivid Video's hands by coming up with that. But
see, yeah.
All right, Seb, so
I'll give you my number one. My number one is absolutely the best trilogy. Right? What's that?
It's based on a book?
Yes.
Okay.
The Lord of the Rings. In my mind, all 3 of those movies deserved an Oscar, I understand why they didn't give the first two an Oscar because they were just going to give it to the third one anyways.
Hmm.
But it is, in my mind, the greatest fantasy series ever written and made. And Peter Jackson really took that project and really gave it everything it deserved. Some may argue it's a little long, but read the books; they're long as well. So, you
Oh
know,
boy, howdy are they ever. I did read them.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot that doesn't happen in the first book until like you're basically halfway through it. So,
Hmm.
but it is just they nailed every one of the actors. And this is another trilogy that had an original actor playing a character that they fired after 2 days and got Viggo Mortensen to come in and go,
Yeah.
"You're the real
Who
Aragon."
was the original actor again?
Stuart Townsend.
Oh yeah, no, let's
Yeah,
not.
which
Let's
to
see.
me that doesn't. He's like when you
Nope.
look at Viggo Mortensen, he's like without even knowing that he played Aragon, he looks like Aragon. Like he's
Yeah.
nailed it. Like, and he
It
doesn't even need to act. It's just him being him, and it's like he's Aragon. So
Vigo comes with a certain gravitas in his delivery.
yeah,
I don't want to say Stuart Townsend couldn't do it. I
you
haven't seen him do it. Sometimes that's just sometimes that's a problem with an actor is sometimes you don't get that shot to go it's like no, I can do this. And
so
it's like
the
no,
issue
no,
with
no, no,
Stuart
you're
Townsend,
yeah.
the issue with Stuart Townsend, from what I'm aware of, is that for lack of better terminology, he's too much of a pretty boy. He's too much.
Mm,
He's too much of like a Hollywood actor type, right? Whereas like you don't get the sense that this is a man that has been living in the woods isolated for his entire like most of his life,
yes.
right? He doesn't look like a ranger, like someone that's of the land, whereas
No,
Vigo looks that part. So
grittier.
grittier, like they
Yeah.
needed a grittier. I've been on my own, isolated hermit ranger. You know, they call him Strider in there, right?
Yes.
So yeah, so they definitely picked the right cast. I don't think there was a single person that was miscast in the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy. Everyone was
No,
phenomenal in it.
I can't
You
think of
made us,
anybody I would
yeah,
replace. I know Christopher Lee was originally after the Gandalf part, but I mean, he was so good as
dude,
Saruman.
yeah,
Um,
he nailed it.
yeah, and you know what? It didn't make my top five, even with the honorable mention, and I do give it a lot of shit. But I, they are good. You have solid points across the board. I can't argue with a lot of that. If it comes on TV, I'll watch a little bit. It's a long slog. I
Yeah.
have
Did you
because
go with us to the full screening of all three of them, or when we went when Return of the King came out? That was an
absolutely not.
endeavor, man. We got to the theater at 10 in the morning. Just to
I
give it into
know.
context, 10 in the morning is when we arrived.
Hmm.
Fellowship started at noon. It was 12:05 after midnight before Return of the King started because it was
Yeah.
4 hours, then a break, 4 hours, and then Return of the King. And it was like it was
Yeah.
a little
See,
much to be honest with you.
I got real lucky with that because I was projection manager at the Colossus there when it came out. We didn't do it.
Yeah,
I was dreading it because to do that, you can only have two feature length films on the same stand at the same time. So to do that, we would have had to been moving prints, and they are
yeah,
big films. Lord of the Rings
yeah,
was the way. So if it was digital, they would have released that 4 hour cut that I have downstairs on DVD. Um, the the length it was cut to was to make sure it fit on movie platters, and it was real close,
yeah.
real close.
I
Like
can't
we had to
imagine how
be
big that reel
real
was.
careful with. I mean, the placement was easy, but you know, if something like we had to be real careful around it, we couldn't. We had to like if you bump into it and it comes a little wonky, that thing was going to end up on the floor, and it was
Yeah,
heavy as shit.
I can
Um,
imagine.
and you know, you get your intermissions, probably an hour and a half in between films, something like that. Go stretch your legs, take the world's longest pee. You know, I was so glad that we didn't do that, and I wasn't sitting through it. Um,
Yeah,
that
I feel bad for the workers because they would have to been there till 5 in the morning, basically,
yeah.
because it's almost a
Mhm.
4 hour movie. So it starts at 12:05. It's probably finished just before 4 a.m.
And the
And
thing
then
is, the last movie, the whole place, there's a point about half hour after the film hits feature, the food people are gone. They're done. They're packing up.
yeah,
They're packing up. They're cleaning up. They're leaving. Most of the ticket takers and the cleanup crew are taken off. There's just one dude around, that's maybe two, that's supposed to help with any issues that arise, and the management and the projection is upstairs that's waiting for it to end. So it comes down to like less than half a dozen people in the building at that point, but there's still those people that draw the shit end of the stick. Like when Star Wars
yeah,
opened up and I first started doing that job, yeah, I was getting home at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning because we were running 2 a.m. screenings for
yeah,
weeks.
yeah. You
And
almost have to, especially if you want to fit in extra show times, right? Because ideal, like Lord of the Rings, any one of the movies is not your ideal time slot because you're missing opportunities to sell tickets because the movie's so damn long. You can't fit
mhm.
in as many showings on a daily basis as possible. You have to, you basically either have to shortchange yourself or go longer into the
Yeah,
day
and
to play that
you're
extra time
you're
slot, right?
sacrificing a whole auditorium. Granted, you're selling it out,
Yeah.
but and you're making a bunch of money because you don't have a lot of time. Colossus was a little different because there were so many restaurants around. But
Yeah.
if that theater empties out, you got an hour and a half in between shows, or an hour between shows. If everybody runs out to the Boston Pizza, the Montanas, the sushi place, their place is packed, and all of a sudden people are like, "I need my bill. I got to go. My movie starts," and everybody's like, "Dude, I haven't even got my food yet." So
Yeah.
the building's making money hand over fist on the popcorn, and that's where they make their money.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's not a rumor. Most of the ticket price goes back to Hollywood. These big theaters, they absolutely need you to buy the film, the
Concessions,
food and drink, the
babe.
concessions. Yeah.
Yeah. Even just buy a
Sarah has an
bottle of
interesting
water.
point. What happens if someone drops it and all the film rolls out? Hours and hours and hours of cleanup, and probably splicing film, which you have to be very, very careful doing, or you're going to put the wrong reel into the wrong reel.
Just make
I've
sure it
never
doesn't happen. That's the best thing I
I
can say.
never actually did it.
Yeah.
I had a couple of near misses, um, but I've never actually full on dropped an uncoiled one. I had heard of it happening.
Man, digital just
Um,
sounds so much better. It just
it
sounds
is
so much more
it is
convenient
so
and
much
it's
more convenient.
yeah.
Unfortunately, it also killed a lot of jobs.
Yeah, that's
Just
fair.
the advancements in theater technology by the mid to late 90s actually killed a union because it was a lot more detailed. I mean, you go back to the Fight Club, the whole deal is like, well, you see, you have to change the reels every 20 minutes. I mean, yes, you absolutely used to. It was,
Yeah.
which is why you didn't see a lot of theaters with giant multiplexes, because they would need a lot of very high paid people, because also the bulbs and the equipment are very dangerous, and they needed to be handled in such a manner. It's
Yeah.
very high voltage. These things are gas with compressed glass around it, so they're basically grenades waiting to go off. But
Yeah.
the
Don't
safety
put your hand in
advancements and
front of
all of
that.
that, and just the fact that instead of changing reels, we just spliced them all together into one big one. It killed the union. That caused a big deal, for anybody around in the mid 90s, the late 90s remembers the projectionist strike. um,
They
they
didn't
ruined the
win.
Sixth Sense for anybody. One particular projectionist was ruining the Sixth Sense for anybody going in. He would sit outside on his picket line and yell, "Bruce Willis is dead."
Yeah, but that's not very fair to the like
It's not.
don't get mad at the people coming to see the movie. They have no idea, right?
Well, I
Like
mean, to them, you're crossing the picket line. However, this is we're
I
way
guess.
off into
Yeah.
the weeds on this one. We won't get.
We'll go back to Lord of the
We're gonna
Rings.
get that.
Yeah.
Sarah forgot all about that. Yeah, it was brutal, but yeah, like the Lord of the Rings, like the casting is perfect. It really is, right down to, even the characters that aren't in it all that
That
much.
much. Yeah.
Theoden, Grammar Wormtongue, did great
Yeah.
jobs. I mean, the main six were perfectly cast. The fact that they didn't try to
Let's not
do
forget
too
about
much.
the yeah, let's not even forget about the music, how iconic all the music is. Like
Yeah.
they really went for that epic fantasy feel in the music. You know,
Hmm.
I guess because the source material itself is so rich and so perfect almost
Detailed.
detailed that you have
Detailed.
so
Yeah.
much to work with that you can really craft a story that you want to craft, right? And they did omit a whole bunch of stuff from the
Oh, they
books,
did.
right? Just to even
It
at
was
running over 12 hours, or maybe it's like 12 something
a,
if you total all three of them
yeah, because
together,
they
they
cut
still
out,
missed a
and
lot.
it was a big controversy at the time when they found out before the first one was released that they cut out the whole Tom Bombadil thing.
It makes sense though.
And
It doesn't
people were
really
pissed,
bridge.
but
Yeah.
absolutely that one lifts right out. It's like, yeah, no. And they cut out, like, when I read the books, there's a lot that
Yeah.
happens after the movie ends. Like, Saruman isn't dead in the books. There's a whole thing with him
Yeah.
afterwards. Um, yeah, I mean, and there's a trilogy we didn't really get to because two of them suck. But I mean, let's not forget that Hugo Weaving did that and The Matrix right on top of each other. He was
Yeah.
Harrison Fording his way through two fantastic
Yeah.
performances. Um,
Dude, I almost put The
Not all that
Matrix as an
different from each
honorable
other.
mention just because of how good the first one was.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I didn't actually mind the second one. As a lot of people hated on the second one, but I actually like the second one. Arguably it kind of like
Yeah.
it's like part two and part three should be one movie because it kind of like ends and nothing's really resolved.
Well, and they again,
So
and like Lord of the Rings, and like a lot of things right now
sure,
that get that
yeah,
three-picture deal, they were all shot at the same time.
yeah, that must have been such undertaking though, right? Like because
Mhm.
you're like, honey, I'm going to film Lord of the Rings. I'll see you in a year and a half.
Yeah, you're moving to New Zealand.
Yeah, you're
Um,
basically there for, well, I'm sure they weren't there the whole time, right? But like you were there for, the main
yeah.
actors like Elijah Wood was probably there for a year filming
Oh,
or how,
easily. Yeah,
so
I'm
because
sure
he's pretty
there's a
much in
lot.
every scene.
An interesting thing that I only recently learned, Sean Bean was because they had to helicopter them into a few sites because it was up a mountain. He's like, not getting on a helicopter. So he hiked it in.
Good for him.
I'm like,
Yeah.
no, no, because you guys got to be out in the middle of nowhere. Um, that's okay. I mean, Sean Bean did the Sean Bean thing where he shows up, nails his performance, becomes an iconic meme, and dies. However,
Um, there's
excellent
some,
casting on his brother. Like,
yeah.
let's Carl Urban, you know,
Yeah, let's just talk about the actors though. Like it is
yeah,
loaded, absolutely loaded with like phenomenal acting, actors. And it was also Orlando Bloom's first acting gig too, apparently.
yes,
So the other thing that a lot of people don't know, and this is why I love Vigo so much, is he actually ended up buying the horse that he was riding because he got so attached to it.
I did
Number
not know
one.
that.
And number two, he bought Arwen's horse and gave it to her stunt double because
Right?
Liv Tyler wasn't adept at riding horses aggressively like she needed to in
Yeah,
some
yeah.
of the scenes. So she had a stunt double do it because she couldn't afford to buy the horse. So Vigo bought it for her
That's
as a gift.
fantastic. Yeah,
So
I hear good things about him, and
yeah,
he's very choosy with his roles, so we don't see a lot out of him. We don't see the
yeah.
bulk that we get with
What's
other
clear in this
actors.
podcast is that Sebastian is a big fan of Vigo.
Yes, yes, I am getting that, and John Rhys Davies,
Also great.
um,
He
under a
also
lot of
shows up.
makeup,
Yeah.
also mentioned, he was in Indiana Jones as well,
Yeah.
right? Sala in Indiana Jones in Raiders and in Last Crusade. So he's making a couple of appearances here, but like he did all that work under all that makeup. And
Yeah.
the fact that 2002 the first one came out, the CGI held up.
That would have been the second one. I think the
Was it the
first one was
second
out
one?
in 2000, I think, or might have been 99 or 2000.
No,
So
it wasn't
Two
99.
Towers was oh 02, I believe.
Okay, so for almost 25-year-old special effects,
Yeah.
it holds
Dude, it's
up.
great.
And they believably shrunk the hobbits. right? Like I think the
A
special
lot of
effects
it was,
in
yeah, a lot of it was just creative film angles.
Mhm.
You have them kind of
Use
separated
perspective and stuff.
perspective. So, but yeah, it's just the creative genius of Peter Jackson to be able to film that. Did you know that he also did? John Rhys Davis did the voice of Treebeard as well.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So,
Um, Most importantly, John Rhys Davies' best role was opposite Jerry O'Connell.
oh
Recently
god,
found out he fucking hated working on Sliders and could not wait to get out of his contract and be
oh
done with that
boy.
show. Thanks for throwing that in there, Sarah. But doing
So,
the yeah. Um,
so I genuinely was brought to tears watching Lord of the Rings, which not a lot of movies do that for me, but I had such an emotional reaction to the whole fantasy storyline.
mhm.
And the part I remember tearing up about is at the Helm's Deep battle when he said, "Look for me on the morning of the third day."
Mhm.
Gandalf said that, and then right when in the darkest time, when the sun breaks, and you see Gandalf with the Riders of Rohan, and the
In
light
their
just
polished armor.
parts in their
Yeah.
polished armor, and then he like rides down, and the light beam separates the oryx. I was freaking bawling my
Yeah,
eyes out in
and
the
the
theater when I
light
saw
is
that.
the light is reflecting off the polished armor, and they have
Yeah,
they have the high ground.
they have the high.
They have the high ground. They're blinding the orcs. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. I mean, you tell it. I didn't read the books, and I hammered through the books until after I had seen all three movies.
So I
So I
bought the books in grade 6, maybe even earlier, grade 5. And at that time, I couldn't deal with reading them because I think I was just not experienced reader enough to like deal with it. I tried reading it and it was just like so long and boring. When I tried to read Fellowship, I couldn't read it.
Mhm.
So I only read like the first 100 pages or whatever. And then I saw the Fellowship of the Ring, and then as soon as I saw that, I immediately went and found my books and read like all three of them in like 2-3
Mhm.
months, basically, because I fell in love with the Fellowship of the Ring. I'm like, oh my god, this is so great. I'm just gonna power through until it gets good, because let's be honest, you can probably omit the first 200 pages of the Fellowship of the Ring, and you're not really missing out a lot.
No, I mean that, and this is a series that has been a lot of people are like, I reread this every year. It's
Yeah,
fan base for it. I don't understand. I mean, this is a series that, as a book, and I'm not even talking about before the animated film came out in the 70s and 80s. Led
yeah,
Zeppelin wrote chunks of lyrics about Lord of the Rings.
yeah,
Ramble on, lots of stuff in there about Lord of the
yeah.
Rings. Gollum is name dropped in Ramble On. Um, so
To be
I
fair
mean,
though, like as soon as they get to Rivendell, not Rivendell, as soon as they get to the what is it, the Prancing
the
Pony?
inn,
Is that
the
the
Prancing
inn?
Pony. Yeah.
Once they get there, that's when like when you read the books, once they hit when they meet Aragon for the first time,
Mhm.
then you can't put the book down. Like from that point onward, all the way through
It
to
does
the
speed
very
up.
end, it's
Yeah.
just like it's just page turning page because there's something happening in every chapter. But it's that first slog of like when they leave the Shire, they go to the Barrow Downs and all that kind of stuff. It's all set up for things and it's all trying to like evoke a certain feeling and mood, but you have to have something going on.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So
I found the books a very difficult read, but I did get
yeah,
it done. I
yeah.
find that this trilogy holds up way better than the Hobbit trilogy. But the
Well, The
Hobbit's
Hobbit
got a lot
shouldn't
of
be a
other
trilogy.
problems
Let's be
because
real.
yeah, it should have been one movie.
Yeah.
Not three, but I also found like the effects and the Hobbit leaned a lot more on CGI than it
Well, because
needed
they
to.
could back then, yeah. Well, to be fair, the Hobbit trilogy isn't just the Hobbit. There's other books attached to it, right?
Mhm.
Like, I mean, the Hobbit ends as soon as Smog escapes, basically, or
Mhm.
as soon as they down Smog. That's to the end of the Hobbit. So the whole third Hobbit is a different book and different story altogether, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so
Yeah, so
there we
we're
go.
almost at 2 hours, so I feel we should
Yeah,
probably wrap this one up.
yeah,
Thank you,
we're
everybody, for
done.
sticking with us. We got a little bit off on our Olympic controversy with kicked us back, and of course,
Yeah,
we got some opinions on our favorite trilogies. So stop by the page, drop us your favorite trilogies. Thank you, everybody, for participating. Tony, once again, congratulations. Sarah, thank you for all the facts, and thank you, Jeff, for complimenting my hat because I like my hat.
it's
My
a
hat,
nice hat.
it really brings the room together. Oh wait, no, that's a rug. Never mind. We'll talk about that one some other time.
I mean, if you put the
Thanks,
hat on
Seb.
the
I
floor.
appreciate this. Let's do this again sometime soon, buddy.
Sure.
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 All right. Good evening, everybody.
Bye-bye.